Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of King of the Hill, I want to talk about Shogun of the Samurai. The Shogun has the ongoing ability to place a power counter on him when another minion goes to the discard pile from play. It has to be from play. Discards from the hand or deck won't count. My first reaction to the Shogun was that he was the opposite of Igor, but was built on the same principle. Instead of being the source, he is the recipient. Note that, for obvious reasons, the minion does not have to be on the same base. If it did, this would be an incredibly limited ability that, in most instances, only provided value when another minion at the same base was destroyed. The Samurai theme is mostly focused on gaining bonuses when your minions go to the discard pile, and the Shogun fits nicely into that. This is not your typical type of power boost. It is most reminiscent of the Count, but for your minions. It is more likely to be directed and activated rather than incremental or steady. This ability is still useful if you use it properly, and this simplistic ability actually has a number of use cases. For the Samurai themselves, the Samurai Chan will let you draw a card when it goes to the discard pile. Combined with the Shogun, it's one card and one power counter, which makes the loss of a minion more efficient. That's important because the Samurai have two copies of yokai attacks, which functions like a shapeshifter replace minion play, except that it's obligatory. You can turn a lower powered minion Samurai Chan into something higher power while generating more power for the Shogun. As your minions get discarded, you can gradually increase the power of the Shogun. However, I'm not sure that this is the best use of the Shogun, as he begins to suffer from the same problem as the Count, in that it's a giant minion that is extremely vulnerable. The Samurai have no defensive abilities, even though they do have the card draw to quickly get one of your partner faction. Instead, I think the Shogun is a better fit for a Blitzkrieg base strategy. Shogun can be played on one base when you have another base that has many minions. This will require you to have an action that can boost your power to close off the swarm base, like the Samurai action Way of the Warrior. As that first base closes, each minion going to the discard pile will place a power counter on the Shogun, who will increase in power unexpectedly. I think that this is a more natural fit, not only because it generates power efficiently, but because the Samurai need to be a multi-base faction. Their abilities reward going to the discard pile, but to receive those benefits, the minions must obviously already be in play. Therefore, a spread strategy is going to be crucial, and it's the start of finding synergies for the Samurai. One option would be a direct swarm with extra minion plays, like robots or mythic horses. The Samurai have the card draw to sustain them, but my personal pick would be the halflings. This is because you can really get your money's worth for each of your minions in terms of cards. Lunch Run would give you a card when your minion is played, and Honor the Fallen would give you a card when that minion goes to the discard pile. This would give you plenty of minions to fill your hand for a Rude Awakening, dumping many minions onto one base to close it, then sending them all to the discard pile to power up your Shogun. Dumping your hand for a burst on two bases would be quite surprising, especially since you can get at least one base by yourself, possibly two. Unfortunately, canceling some Samurai abilities would hurt this strategy, but the unanswered points may render that moot. Rockstars can play 5 groupies in a single turn to close a base, resulting in +5 power to your Shogun. This can also result in 5 cards drawn, allowing you to get the cards needed to regenerate your minions. You could also use movement to establish the Shogun burst. I like the pirates for this approach because you can start by closing a single base, the opposite of a normal Samurai strategy. Working backwards, you can pile many minions onto a base, only to move the Shogun off before a base scores. Granted, the first mates would not go to the discard pile, but their sustained power is greater than the Shogun power counter anyway. It's too bad yokai attacks can't combine with the Buccaneer. For this reason, the Explorers may be a better fit, as they can do something similar. Idaho Smith can swarm onto a base that you intend to break by yourself. Then, you call this archaeology can be used to move the Shogun off after the base scores, drawing power from his fallen brethren. The Explorer movement actions can also be used in Phase 2 to help consolidate further minion count. If you are actually lucky enough, you can get most of your minions on one base, Shogun on another, and after you close the Shogun base, you can use You Call This Archaeology to send the unexpectedly power-up Shogun to a third base, either breaking that or getting a great head start. Ironically, it's always been my expectation that the ninja were lightning fast, while the samurai were slow and methodical, yet the samurai seem to have the better burst of the two in Smash Up. You can also go the destruction route to power up the Shogun, since destruction is also a way to go to the discard pile. A well-placed broadside on your minions can create a burst, and destroying an Igor would have its effect doubled. Despite the benefits of yokai attacks, I'm not sure destruction is the best route to go, because if you're going to destroy your own minions, you want as much of a reward as possible. However, what's also interesting is the word choice of the discard pile, as opposed to your discard pile. This means that minions you control but do not own, such as muffin targets, would qualify. With the kitty cats, you can farm power counters off of other players' minions while still receiving the benefits of the kitty cat cards. Because your on a card refers to the card's controller, the minion was yours at the time it went to the discard pile, even though it didn't get to yours. If you can sacrifice your samurai to get a Queen Fluffy and Whiskers, you can solve the problem of needing to sacrifice your own minions for maximum effect. For the next pairing, I want to reiterate that I can't cover conceivably every combo in every video, and I try to avoid the big three core factions that pair well with seemingly everyone, two of which are robots and zombies, and these really stand out with the Shogun. There has to be something really special for me to mention one of these factions, and the core 3 faction I really like with samurai is actually aliens because of terraforming. I think the samurai strategy really benefits having the right bases in play, and terraforming ensures that you get what you want. You can grab any VP farming base to soak up as much VP from the minions you destroy to power up your Shogun. You can also grab the homeworld to play your samurai chants all at once. One of the homeworld's problems is that it has a tendency to overpay in terms of cards, but the samurai self-correct that problem, and the Shogun is a clear beneficiary of that. My last combo is a bit of a long game, and it's one that some may challenge as being correct. The Shogun ability is triggered after a minion goes to the discard pile, but the ability, nor any formal clarification, does not state that it has to stay there. Combine this with the jumper, which states, when this minion goes to the discard pile from play, you may place it back into your hand. The wording does not say before it goes or if it would go, thus canceling the discard, like the Buccaneer cancels the destruction. Nor does it say instead, implying that the discard pile was never visited. The wording is when it goes to the discard pile, implying that the jumper does in fact go to the discard pile, only to be pulled back after, because when is present tense, meaning that the ability fires at the moment the jumper is in fact still at that location. So this should trigger the Shogun's ability. In this instance, you want your Shogun early on a base that won't break for a while, as the time box plays 2 jumpers on a base every turn, powering the Shogun as that base closes. You can also bring out time box by spamming yokai attacks on a jumper to replay that jumper and destroy it with your second yokai attacks. It's Astounding can play yokai attacks a third time, quickly giving the Shogun 3 power counters. Combined with the start of your turn and 3 jumper trips back to your hand, you provided 80% of your time box with additional power on the Shogun as well in a single turn. I admit that some players may interpret this as not working if they interpret goes to the discard pile as staying there, but there is no rule saying that this is the case, and it's tough to argue against the fact that the jumper did in fact go there, albeit briefly. I have to admit, when I first saw the Shogun, I wasn't that impressed, but in the greater context of Smash Up, this simple ability has a lot of use cases. That's extremely important as Oops is considered the 14th entry of Smash Up and the game isn't showing its age. How will you use the Shogun? And what do you think of the jumper issue? I really want to know your opinions on that, so let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.